On behalf of all assembled here today, I should now like to invite Dr. Donald Gerson to address Convocation.
Well, thank you very much. Well, first of all, congratulations to all you graduates. This is a terrific day for you. You've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort getting to where you are, and this puts you in a position to spend more time and more effort going even further. And I'd like to thank you, President Shepherd, and all the people at Western who brought me here today for this amazing honor. It's one I never expected, and I'm extremely humbled to receive. I also thank my wife, Gail, my life and scientific partner, who is also a Western grad, both bachelor's and PhD. I appreciate this very, very much. Now, you know, I almost didn't graduate twice, and both for the same reason. Both here at Western and at McGill, I took a bunch of science courses that I kind of wanted to take, but at the end of the course, they didn't actually end up adding up to a particular prescribed degree. So it took a wise and kind academic administrator in both cases to guide me through and find a way to end up getting a degree. So through that process, I learned to really love academic administrators. I mean, they made all the difference in the world to me, and being an unruly student of a certain kind. So today I want to talk to you about a way of thinking, really. I want to ask you a question and then have you think about it a little bit as I go further. The question is, what is your radius of concern? How far away from yourself do you think of people and things and ideas? When you think about yourself and people, are you concerned about appearance or money or neighbors or your company or country or school or the whole world? Let's keep this question in the back of our minds as I tell you some stories, some of which you heard a little bit. Starting with Western, my radius of concern began to expand. And I want to take you on that journey and see where it goes and give you some suggestions about how you can better affect the world as you progress in your career. So in 1964, I arrived here at Western alone and 1,000 kilometers from home, and I didn't know anybody. And at school, academically, I liked biophysics because that brought together the other courses I was taking. The physics seemed to be the core of everything, and this tied it all together, the biology and the chemistry and the works. I also made many friends at Medway Hall and who were people who were professors and graduate students here. And especially with the professors and the graduate students, there was a great deal of informal mentorship in the hallways, just talking about science or other things. And this made a huge effect on my life. I mean, the formal education and the informal, both together, combined to make a very strong educational experience here at Western. And by the time I graduated, my radius of concern had expanded from myself and my school and my courses to my community and a little bit further out to the rest of the world. I went to McGill and got a PhD in botany and biophysics, which were the subjects I liked the most here at Western. And at the end of that, Dr. Burton, who was head of biophysics department here, asked me to come back and do a postdoc on the control of cell division. So a very small object, the center of the cell, how does that work? But it was very important, of course, for the origins of cancer. And then after that period was over, I did a second postdoc here at Western in chemical engineering, where it was a very, very different kind of project. It was the mid-1970s, and there was an oil crisis. So we wanted to make a new process for extracting bitumen from the Alberta tar sands using biological surfactants. And we went out to Oil Springs, Ontario, which is just west of London, where there's natural oil deposits, and we found bacteria that turn oil into surfactants. So we took those and cultivated them and made a process, and then we made a small factory here at Western, actually just beside where this building is, and scaled that process up to 1,000 liters and made a large number of kilograms of our surfactant, and then went to Toronto and tested that in a 1 ton per hour bitumen extractor using Alberta tar sands. It worked great. But in the process, I had expanded my radius of concern to another level. So do something in the lab with a microbe or a cell, to do something large at 1,000 liters, to make kilograms of something, to develop or partially develop a large industrial process, that's a whole different world and greatly expanded my radius of concern. After that, I decided the right thing to do was to go to industry. The cell division work had led, and some personal contacts had led me to the Basel Institute for Immunology, which at the time was the best immunological institute in the world. And there, my boss was a man named Niels Gerson, and my colleagues, George Curler and Susumu Tanagawa, and my advisor, Sidney Brenner, later all got Nobel Prizes for the work they did in that same time period. So these people became good friends and more mentors for me. And we learned many things. They learned many things. As collectively as a group, we learned a great deal about how the immune system works today. So my radius of concern had suddenly expanded from industrial things to pharmaceutical things. Roche, the company sponsoring this, is a huge pharmaceutical company. So I started thinking about large-scale production of pharmaceuticals and global health care. Making pharmaceuticals can change the lives of millions of people. And it's, again, a greatly expanded radius of concern. After that, I worked in the biotech industry, which was new in those days, and also in government. And in Alberta, we set up with a government project, we set up the largest biotechnology pilot plant for scaling up biological processes that there is still today in North America, and this was a long time ago. That project and that facility has helped more than 30 companies bring products to the market, many of which are used today, and has provided hundreds and hundreds of new jobs throughout Canada and the rest of the world. After that, I moved into the vaccine industry, the perfect mix of all the things that I'd learned, the biophysics, the chemical engineering, and the immunology, combining one area with a greatly increased radius of concern. In the vaccine industry, I was responsible for manufacturing. Vaccines have a massive impact on society. Many of you would not be here if you had not been vaccinated when you were children. So I became responsible for manufacturing vaccines first in Toronto, and then at another company in New York, and another one in Boston. And we made billions of doses of vaccines for people here and all over the world and for emergency outbreak situations. We applied the very best biophysics and chemical engineering and immunology to improve processes for making tetanus and diphtheria and polio and many other vaccines, including the 3 bacterial vaccines that now are used worldwide, and we made the very first vaccines of, that have greatly reduced disease for pneumonia, meningitis, and another kind of meningitis throughout the world. Throughout making the vaccines, there's always a tendency in industry to think about money. We didn't do that. We thought about making the best vaccine. The money was a byproduct. The important thing was the vaccine. And as time went on, I started to ask myself yet another question. Will the next scientific paper, or the next product, or maybe the next company better help people all over the world? And the answer, of course, is to do all 3. So my radius of concern had expanded one more time to the thought of making companies. And over the years, we've made quite a few. So I'll just give you some examples of some of these new companies. So some time ago, an old friend of mine introduced me to an investor in Korea who wanted to start a biotech company. We met in Seoul one day and outlined what became the world's largest biotechnology company. The investor invested, and I became president. It was the first of its kind in Korea. Today, it employs 1,000 young people like you, and they make products that are distributed in 70 countries all around the world and save people's lives every single day. Also, in that same area outside Seoul, there are now about 20 other biotech companies making similar kinds of products that were never envisioned or thought of before. And Korea has now become one of the largest producers of biopharmaceuticals in the world, starting with that one company. We've also set up companies in China and Southeast Asia, and we have our own company for making vaccines here in Canada. More recently, I was concerned about chronic vaccine shortages in the Middle East. And after 10 years of searching, we finally found a wonderful partner in Saudi Arabia, and we're now building the very first vaccine factory ever built in Saudi Arabia, starting from scratch, making final vaccines. And this will provide vaccines not only for Saudi, but for the whole area, and jobs for hundreds of people in Saudi Arabia that has a large number of fresh new graduates that need employment. And the ones we've found have been absolutely wonderful. So along the way, we've made vaccines for all kinds of diseases, normal, routine vaccinations, and for diseases that are outbreaks like Ebola or smallpox or the MERS virus in the Middle East. So my radius of concern is greatly expanded once again. I'm deeply concerned about the strong correlations between the control of infectious disease and public health and economic growth throughout the world. And all of this happened with a strong and deep education that I got here at Western, and you have also received a similar education now. All of you are graduating today as leaders of the next half century. Each one of you has learned many things in your specific area of study, but most importantly, you've learned how to learn, and that is the skill you will need the most. Keep on learning. It's not just something that happens in school. Learn detailed advancements in your field. Read papers, read the latest scientific advances, the latest social advances, whatever you're interested in. You'll learn how to do your own technical kind of work. You'll learn how to do social, operational things like running companies. And you'll learn how to achieve large, globally important objectives. And I'm sure each one of you can do that. So I hope that you expand your radius of concern to include ever broader aspects of your field of study and how it affects people far away in distance, in age, in lifestyle, and in capabilities. And you need to keep it all in focus from the near to the far in order to be successful. Be concerned about other people. They are all your neighbors in this shrinking world. Global progress will depend on your ability to positively affect as many other people as possible. To share your knowledge through personal contacts, through products you might make, through services you might provide, through information you might develop, and ideas that will improve the lives of people all over the world. Think of them. They're part of your world too. And lastly, you have a special problem. Things are going to change very quickly for you because of the geophysical consequences of the previous generation's limited radius of concern. The physics of greenhouse gases tell us that global climate change will not be linear. It will be exponential. It will change faster and faster, and the more it changes, the faster it will change. You will have to lead with today's best knowledge every day. You will have to learn and adapt quickly, not just perpetuate the past. Things are changing much too fast for that. You will have to create the knowledge you need so you can do what no one knows how to do today. You will have to think of the long-term global consequences of your actions and the things that you do and the things that you make. The world is too interconnected to just think of local or financial goals. It is you who have to develop and expand your own radius of concern to care for the people of the world in the next half century, so that those people can prepare for the next generation. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity, and very best wishes to you all for the coming years, and congratulations, everyone. Thank you very much.